Welcome everybody back to Friar Talk. Today we're recording. It's an off day for the Padres, so we wanted to have a little chat. And the episode today is going to be about Fernando Tatis and Manny Machado, and really just the slumps that they've started in this year. Now, before we get into all that, because it is, I don't even know if it's negative necessarily, but we're just going to kind of be like, hey, this is a realistic spot of where these guys are. This is a situation. We just kind of want to break it down because we've been in streams in the past couple weeks. And I think that one thing I've seen a lot of people asking is like, "Hey, man, are these guys like not playing well?" And like so many questions about them over the past like month or so. The numbers are obviously down, but I want to kind of look at the Padres in a whole before we get into them real quick. And let's take a look at it. All right, Padres right now are sitting one game over 500. But if we dove in and we looked in the stats, we said, "Hey, Robert Suarez has, a 0.5 ERA or 0.7 ERA. You have a guy in Jeremiah Estrada who's came up. He's a setup man. He has a 0.5 ERA. He's been ridiculous. The overall the overall bullpen has been really, really good outside of a couple guys once in a while, but overall the bullpen's been super good after a rough start to the year. Starting pitching, it's been phenomenal. A lot of the question marks you have, they've worked out. Darvish, Cease, they've been sweet. Musgrove started out slow, but he's been good. King's been solid. Waldron's even been pretty good lately. And then we look at the lineup, right? And I think this is where the part is. You traded before the year. I said, okay, you trade for Luis Arias. He's hitting almost like 400 in a Padre uniform. And then you look across and you go, okay, yeah. And then you look across and you go, Jake Cronenworth. He's had a massive bounce back up this point, almost 780 OPS. He was over 800 for a lot of the year. Jurickson Profar, your $1 million man, is maybe in the MVP race. He looks like I don't even know. He looks insane, right?
Probably the best outfielder in the NL right now.
Yeah,
One of them.
He's hit bombs. Kim's numbers are down, but he's been good at shortstop. He's whatever. The numbers are a little bit down. Jackson Merrill, he's replacing Trent Grisham, and he's way better. Yes, his power isn't there, but he's there. He's hitting almost 280. He's doing pretty good. And you're just kind of looking across the board. You picked up Donovan Solano, right? And now this dude's like a great bench piece. Same with, I think David Peralta, maybe not great bench piece, but David Peralta, a solid bench piece. Campy, he's struggled a little bit, but like for the most part, you're looking across the board and you're going, there are so many pros for this team. What would you actually think the Padres record would be if I told you all that stuff? And I think the biggest ones are you traded for Luis Arias. You have Profar playing out of his mind. You have Cronenworth look like bounce back, like he looks like he dialed the clock a couple years back. Been really good, been also really good defensively at first and second base. And you're kind of looking, you're going, okay, dude. I mean, even though Campy's not that good, it's a lot better than what Austin Nola was last year. You're okay, you have good DH options, you have good depth, like okay, like everything's good. And now you would ask and you go, okay, well, what's the Padres record? I would probably guess 5 to 10 games over 500.
500, yep.
Like you would expect that they'd be a lot higher up, right? And the reality is they're a game over 500. Now, to be fair, and we've talked about this a lot, the schedule's been rough. This is where they're starting to hit the stride of like, let's start getting a little bit over 500. This is the stretch that they're in right now. But the reason that they're not 5 to 10 games over 500 is because of 3 players. And this is just the reality of the situation. We're not ripping these guys, but it's just, okay, this is the truth. Because of one, Xander Bogaerts, who's now hurt. We're not going to talk about him today. We've talked about Xander Bogaerts enough. But the other 2 are Manny Machado and Fernando Tatis. And both of those guys, they weren't bad last year. We were talking about this before. They weren't bad last year, but they were not superstars last year. And when the Padres were good, when the Padres have been cruising in the past, maybe not 2022 because you didn't have Fernando, but before that, when they've had success, it's because of these 2 guys balling out. In 2022, I mean, it was Manny Machado, right? Like Manny Machado has the MVP caliber year. He's terrific. Fast forward a couple years, both these guys are not putting up the numbers. So we want to break down today, okay, are they going to return to a superstar status? And for me, this is just my initial thoughts, and we'll get into it. We're not, like I said, it's not like we're really ripping them. We're just like, all right, dude, what are the reasons to believe yes? What are the reasons to believe no? Like, what do we all think? Because I think we were talking about like it's time to address it because we've been talking about it in the chat and stuff, and like with the chat and stuff and live streams, and we want to get more into it. So my initial thought is this: for Tatis, the baseball savant tells you he's going to be fine. The advanced numbers tell you he's going to be fine. He's smoking the baseball. For Manny, they're not telling you that. So I'll break it down for me. For my heart, it says yes, these guys are gonna be all right. It's just a little slump. It's not that bad, right? I like the fan side, the heart side. It's like, dude, it's gonna be all right, whatever. the Baseball Savant page, I think and just the advanced like numbers for Tatis, they say, yeah, he's gonna be all right. It's not a big deal. He broke his max exit velocity record this year. He's gonna be fine. He's just struggling a little bit. For Manny, they're like, I don't know, and we'll get into that, but it's kind of fallen off a little bit over the last couple years. But the eye test, I don't know how you feel, Isaac. The eye test for me says no. Like honestly, like when I watch them play, it's like, dude, these guys, it's not that I don't see it sometimes, but they don't have the same feel over the past 200 games that we've watched them than before. And that is just my take on it. But I don't know, dude. What do you think? I just talked a lot. So what is your initial thoughts? And we'll break down the numbers. We'll kind of dive into it all. But what do you think about him, dude? And we can maybe attack Manny first, or go at like talk about Tatis first, whichever one you want. But what are you feeling overall?
I'll say that we've had a discussion about making this video for about a week or two now, and we've delayed it for as long as possible just because we thought, it's gonna happen. Like, it's bound to happen for sure. These guys are gonna, they're gonna come back. And we're not even gonna have to make this video. That's been the discussion for the past week or two, and we've just been waiting and waiting and waiting, and now it's the end of May, 2 months into the season. The discussion now has to be had. Will Fernando and Manny bounce back and be MVP candidates the way we thought we were getting? Honestly, we thought we were going to get MVP candidates out of both of them this year. And like you said, man, the Baseball Savant, it shows Fernando's going to be fine. I mean, you look at him over the past few games, you're seeing he's hitting the ball. I mean, his average isn't really there the past few games. I think it's like a 250 over the past 7 games, but he's hitting it. He's hitting singles. He's hitting the shit out of it. Hard hit percentage is up there. Barrel percentage is good. Bat speed's good. Exit velo is good. I think I think the biggest thing that's been hindering the Padres and Fernando is, where's the power, man? The power, Fernando Tatis Jr. is a former 42 home run player, and that wasn't even in a full season. That was in like 125 or 130 something games. That was oh shoot, I'm talking about Fernando. Sorry, I'm supposed to be talking about Manny. Real quick.
No, Fernando's fine. We can talk about Fernando first. Let's break down
Cool.
Fernando first.
Cool. So anyway, with Fernando, you look at him and you're saying this guy's supposed to hit. I mean, going into the season, he was projected for 35 home runs. He was the main guy people thought of when it came to MVPs, because everyone thought, well, Ronald Acuna Jr. bounced back from a torn ACL. He came back and won MVP. Fernando Tatis is coming off a year where he just came back from a steroid suspension, and he's going to get a full year of baseball, some spring training, a full off season, all that kind of good stuff. And everyone's thinking this guy is going to win the MVP. He's going to be a top 3 candidate at minimum. And right now you're looking at a guy who has a 250 batting average, 249, a 739 OPS. And I mean, the batting average doesn't bother me too much. It's that the OPS is so low. Even last year with a 257 batting average, he hit 771, but he played in like 130 something games, I think maybe 140, and he didn't hit. How many home runs did he hit? I can't remember. 25. In that amount of games, Fernando hit 35 plus 40 the year before. That's a really big difference. And I know he didn't get a full, off-season spring training, whatever you want to call it. He needed to get back into the groove of playing MLB games, whatever you want to say about it. But it was expected from Fernando. And don't get me wrong, defensively, it was fantastic. 26 outs above average, best defender in the National League, probably the best defender in all of baseball, if I'm being honest. Now, that's great. But with the guys that are producing, Jake Cronenworth, Jerkson Profar, I know Jackson Merrill has little power right now, but he's putting the ball in play, and his average is pretty solid. Arias is hitting over 400 in a Padres uniform. There's guys that are producing, but the guys that aren't producing are the guys that you are paying the most, and they're the guys that you expect nothing but production from. And the problem here lies, I was looking at, because I wanted to see like what is going on with Fernando. What do I think could possibly be going on? His splits, Against righties, he has, I believe it's like a 760, 770 OPS. Against lefties, he has a 652 OPS, which is strange because I believe he's been pretty solid against lefties in the past. Um, so it's clearly there's that. On the road, it seems like he's better on the road than at home. I go to his Statcast. Sorry, Matt, I'm kind of taking you everywhere. But yeah, home games 699, away 7. What is that? 782. I mean, that's a pretty significant difference. That's 80 points right there, 83 points. And then you look at his Statcast and you see, hey, well, what were they throwing him in 2021 compared to now? And you see, the fastball was the pitch that he crushed the most in 2021. It was easily, I don't know if you can go to it, Matt. It has like a 17 run. I don't know what they call it, like a batting run value of 17. Easily, it's like dark red. It is like in the 100th percentile of pitches that he crushes. So he was getting a fastball 28% of the time, and he was taking advantage of it, hitting 42 home runs. He was just hitting the crap out of the fastball, right? And you look at it last year, and you say he wasn't hitting the fastball as much as he was in 2022. And now this year, and the thing is that it's not that guys aren't throwing him fastballs as much. Guys are throwing him fastballs still 28% of the time. It's just that he's not taking advantage of the fastballs he's getting compared to the amount he was getting in 21. So it's definitely strange. I'm not frustrated with Fernando and his approach at the plate, or that how he's even hitting in general. I'm just frustrated that the power, I can't, off the top of my head, I cannot remember the last time he hit a home run. The power's not there. It doesn't seem like the power is there right now. He's fast. He can leg out doubles. He can leg out triples, but there's a lot of singles being hit. When he does get on, I don't see him stealing. And I feel like I'm ripping Fernando, man. I love Fernando. He's my favorite player. But, and like I said, we've prolonged making this video for the longest time. But honestly, like, I really think he's going to be fine. I think at this point, maybe the MVP isn't out of the discussion, but it's pretty damn near out of the discussion, just because the numbers really aren't that good right now, and that's just the honest truth. I don't think the MVP is in the discussion right now. A ton of ground would need to be made up in order for him to enter that discussion. And then you look at his past production, and you're saying we want 21 Fernando back. I don't know. I don't see it. If I'm being completely honest, I don't know if we're gonna get that back. But I pray to God, and I really do, in my heart, believe we will get it back. I really do believe that this guy's still one of the best talents in all of baseball. I don't know what people are gonna blame it on. People were blaming it maybe on the shoulder surgery, or people probably think he took performance enhancing drugs in 21. I don't know what people are blaming it on, but maybe it's a mental thing. I don't know what, man, but we need that 21 Fernando back, because the way some of these guys are playing right now, this team should easily be a good 5+ games over 500. And your two, I mean, at one point it was your 1, 2, 3 hitters, or your 1, 2 and cleanup going up, and those are guys you're supposed to be extremely confident in coming to the plate. And I hate to be that guy, and I don't want to be that guy, but right now I see Fernando and Manny coming to the plate, and I don't feel good about it.
Yeah, and the thing is, dude, like, you look into some of this. Also, the last time you said, remember the last time Fernando hit a home run? I believe the last time Fernando hit a home run was when he hit the ball about 500 feet into dead center against Walker Buehler in that Dodgers game, where he just killed it. And I was like, okay, yeah, dude, like, maybe that'll get him going. And then nothing really happened. And that's the thing, dude. Like, I think that's gonna be I think the biggest thing people, and this is what sucks, and this is why, like, I kind of wonder, like, all right, dude, because, like, it is true. You don't feel like the magic. Like, baseball, I feel like baseball seems like such a magic sport, right? It's like, oh, look at this, all this, all this stuff's going on. Like this guy comes up, and when the last time Fernando really felt magic was, where it was like, oh yeah, it was in that Cubs game when he had that crazy comeback, and he came up, and it was like, And I remember him coming up because he had been playing well up to that point. It was like, dude, he's going yard. And they threw him a hanger, and as immediately as it leaves the pitcher's hand, you're like, that's gone. And he smoked it. And it's like, there you go. Like, it was bottom of the 8th inning, I want to say, and they took the lead off of that. So that's the thing, dude. Like, I want to see that Fernando more. And that's what we're talking about. We're not talking about, like, are these guys going to be okay players? Like, yeah, they might be okay players, but, like, we don't want Fernando Tatis, Manny Machado to be like, oh, they were okay. Like, that's not what it's like. That's not what's going to win this team a championship at the end of the day. Like, that's not what we're going to see. So with Fernando, I think the biggest thing is obviously going to be the steroids, right? Like that's clearly the biggest, like, the elephant in the room with this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But you look at his numbers, you look at how hard he hits the ball and stuff. It's not that. It's that his barrel rate compared to 2020 and 2021 is like 7 to 9% down. That last year was even lower. It's better this year, but it's way lower than that. So he's not barreling the baseball. The other thing that I think you see with him a lot is, dude, pitchers are throwing inside on him so much,
Oh yeah.
and it seems like it's rattling him. Does it not? Like, it feels like it's rattling him.
Yep.
So I think that's another thing with him. But, like, I think the actual, like, raw power and just, like, the traits and all that stuff, I don't think any of that is gone at all. Which, like, that would be something where it's like, oh, he was on roids, now he has no pop or whatever. But if you just look at the numbers, like, if you just look at the plain numbers, like, of course people are going to bring that up. And he probably feels that too, you know? So maybe it's a mental thing. Maybe it's part of that. Like, I don't know what it is, but it's not fun. Cause, like, you know, in 2021 and 2020 and even 2019, like, and this isn't like you still see glimpses of it, but, like, it's been a while since we've been like, dude, like, Fernando was becoming the face of baseball. Like, we all have to remember that. A couple years ago, he was becoming the face of baseball, and it does not feel like that right now. However you want to put it. And like, it sucks, dude. It sucks that does not feel like that right now. So, I mean, I really hope that that's something that we talk about. Like, dude, remember when it got real scary? Like, okay, well, thank God. Like, you know, it's great now. Like, hopefully that changes. And I kind of think it will. I think that he's really just slumping hard, but it does feel a little bit different. It's also funny too, because we're talking about both these guys right now. Isaac Fernando has like a 5-game hitting streak, and Manny has like an 8-game hitting streak. They have good hitting streaks, but
Yeah.
we're not talking about the contact. Like, that's not the issue at all. The
Fine.
issue is all
Yeah.
about the power for both of these guys. So that's the thing. Like, maybe people are gonna look at that like, well, you guys are talking about, you're complaining about these guys and they're hitting really good lately. Yeah, kind of. But also, Fernando's been on a 5-game hit streak and his OPS has dropped. Think about that. He's got to hit 5 games in a row. His OPS has dropped. If you like, not that much, but a little bit. Then Machado's hit safely 11 of his last 12 games, and his OPS in that time has jumped from a 611 to a 651. So let's get into him a little bit. I can start out with Machado, man, and I think this is going to be the biggest thing. So we bring up Manny Machado, right? And there we go. Here we go. Getting back to the Savant here on Manny Machado. So Savant is not good. Savant is not good. He's been hitting the ball. He's been getting some decent contact, but here's the thing. Let's go back to 21. Look at that. Look at all that power. Look at that exit velo. Look at all this stuff just absolutely tearing the cover off the baseball, right? Balling out. Let's go to 2022, that MVP caliber year. Not quite as good, but it's like, hey, dude, he was still hitting the ball so good. He was super clutch. All that stuff was there. Fielding ridiculous, like all this. It dropped a little bit, though, right? Like, let's see that. And I think this stuff does matter. I think a lot of people probably don't think stuff matters that much. I think it does. Then it drops a little bit. All right. Let's go next year. All right, so then it drops a little bit more. All right, let's see what it is this year. All right, so then it's dropping a little bit more. In a lot of these. I guess exit velo is actually coming back up, which is good. But that's good. And bat speed isn't there. But barrel and all this stuff, like, some of it's dropping. It's kind of similar, but it's dropping a little bit overall. Dude, like, it's getting a little bit scary. And because with him, look at this slugging, dude. 70 points, 100 points. Those are the two current drop-offs that we're seeing. And yeah, he's not hitting well and stuff, but it's about the slugging. It's about this. It's about the pop. And yeah, he hit 30 bombs last year, but the 32 the year before felt like it was just, he was hitting the ball better. He was gapping the baseball way more. He was just a much better player. And last year, like, yeah, he was okay, but he wasn't like, it wasn't that great. And we talked about it. He was also really bad with runners in scoring position, and it felt like that so much. But with Manny, dude, it feels a little bit different. It feels like he does not have the pop that he's had in the past. And hopefully it comes back. Hopefully, and I think the other thing with him is like he's also clearly coming off of an injury. That's the other thing with him, which is a little bit different. Like Fernando's a year removed from it. Manny was late. He's a kind of a slow starter, right? All that stuff. But his is definitely way more concerning. And it's also more concerning to him because he's older. He's 6 years older than Fernando. He's 31 years old. He is under contract for what, 9 more years, right? 9 more years, 10 more years, something like that. I think 10 more, including this year. He can't fall off. Like, he cannot fall off. If he falls off, the Padres are in a really bad spot, especially because we're not talking about him today, but Xander Bogaerts it's been scary for him. Like, that's the problem is like everything's going to rely on these guys. Whether like we can look at all the complimentary stuff, but at the end of the day, like the Padres currently, like this year and for their future, it is going to rely on Manny Machado, Xander Bogaerts, and Fernando Tatis. That is their future. And those are the guys that are the biggest issues so far. So that's why it's hard, dude. On the bright side, they've been good without these guys playing well. So if these little batting streaks, and I think that's one thing that I really want to bring up too, is if these little batting streaks, if Manny on this, I think it's 7 or 8, I think it's 8, this hitting streak, right? If that starts to turn the tide and he starts, hitting a little bit with a little bit more pop and stuff, and they both start hitting off lefties, because both of them have been terrible off lefties, which is super weird because they're usually like some of the best hitters against lefties in the league. Then then we're just gonna be hyping up the Padres all day. It's gonna be amazing. It's gonna be perfect. It's gonna be sunshine and rainbows, dude. It's gonna be amazing. Like we're gonna be hyping up. It's be like this team has a chance. That's how it's gonna actually feel. But if they're not, it's like, dude, and that's the thing is like all the money tied up in them, all the like them hitting in the heart of the order, it's all on them. Like it is all on them right now. And that's the reason, like, yeah, they've been able to stay afloat. They're not going to go anywhere if these guys don't heat up. But if they do heat up, then they could make a World Series run. Like that's how drastically different it's going to depend on that. So I don't know. Maybe I mean, do you think I'm going too far into it, or do you think that's actually the case? Because I really do, dude. And I think that Manny might be a little bit more like concerning, but I think it's that important, man. I really do.
Well, I mean, I want production from both. However, I will say the Padres do better when Manny does better. It seems like the Padres have always rode not with Fernando, but with how Manny is performing. And I get Fernando's the fan favorite over Manny, but the Padres for some reason have always rode with Manny. And whenever Manny does good, the Padres are doing good. The vibes are high. It's fun to go to the ballpark. That 2022 Manny MVP runner-up, whatever it was, year was phenomenal. Of course, you guys all remember the phenomenal playoff run, but the season was incredible as well. You had Manny, playing on a high ankle sprain, and he came back weeks before he was even supposed to come back. He started as one of the hottest hitters in baseball, and throughout the duration of the year, outside of one stint where he came back, 3 weeks early or 2 weeks early. Outside of that one stint, he was one of the best hitters in baseball. He finished runner-up to Paul Goldschmidt, and honestly, I think he should have won it. And he was the obvious captain of that team. He was the obvious energizer of that, whatever you want to call it. He was that guy for the Padres in 2022. And right now, he's just not that. And if he's able to return to that, you're looking at a team that could easily go deep in the playoffs, right? Fernando, of course, I think he's going to bounce back. But man, the Padres, they just feel different when Manny's the one doing it, man. The Padres feel different when Manny's the one that's hot at the plate. When he's up and there's runners on, they feel different, bro. It feels like he's guaranteed to bring them in. And like I said, Fernando's my favorite player. Manny's right there, but Fernando is my favorite player. So when I say, Manny is the guy that carries the Padres, or Manny's the guy that the Padres ride with, it's nothing against Fernando. I know that Fernando can easily perform, and honestly, I do still think Fernando could probably hit 30-something home runs by the end of the year if he gets hot. But I need to see Manny come up there, man. And I think what really, really drove me to want to make this video was yesterday, or the last Marlins game, when Manny came up with guys on, and I think he only got 3 or 4 pitches, and he got a fastball or I forgot what it was, maybe a sweeper up in the zone, and he whiffed, and the guys were left on base, and the Padres didn't score. I have seen that a decent amount from Manny, where at the beginning when this all started, it felt like Manny's up. He's gonna bring him in. And now it feels like, I'm not too sure, man. I'm not too sure what Manny's gonna do right here, right? And it's nothing against Manny. I love Manny. It's just, oh god, listen, if Manny has one fan, I'm his fan. If I'm not here anymore, if he has no fans, that means I am dead. I love Manny. Okay. I argue with people all the time for Manny because I truly think he is still one of the most talented players in baseball. I mean, shoot, just 2 years ago, bro, he was an MVP candidate. Last year, yeah, it was a little bad, but he was playing with tennis elbow, whatever you want to call it. This year, I mean, shoot, it's such a slow start, but it doesn't even feel like that type of slow start where you're saying he'll be back or he's going to be fine. It's that slow start where you're saying, I don't know how this is going to look. And like you said, Matt, we can't afford for these guys to not perform. It's too early in the contract for Manny to not perform, for Xander to not perform. These were the years. And look, for when the whole thing that was happening with the whole, oh yes, he's 31, but he wants 11 years for security was happening in the year Manny signed again. I understood, and it happened to Xander too. I understood because I was like, well, they're going to give us 5 great years. They're going to be championship caliber players for the next 5 years. In year 1 of both of those extensions, that's not what you got. Now you're in year 2, and it's even worse. Yeah, it's even worse. I hate to be that person, but it is even worse than last year. And yeah, we're 2 months in. We're not at the end of the season yet. But you can't honestly tell me Xander's is not worse. His second year is worse than his first one. Manny's second year into his contract is worse than his first one. So yeah, with that being said, man, we can't afford for these guys to not perform. Manny's baseball savant. It just, I don't want to sugarcoat it. It looks bad. It looks bad. He's not hitting the ball very well right now. When he is, it's a single back up the middle. Maybe it's a ground ball through the 5-6 hole. I mean, sure, hits are hits. I couldn't agree more with that sentiment. But you look throughout the lineup, Arias isn't a 30 home run guy. Dude's a baller, though. Cronenworth isn't a 30 home run guy. Profar isn't. Ha-seong Kim isn't. None of these guys are. Profar low-key might do it. No, I'm playing. Almost none of these guys are. The two that for sure are, 100% are in your lineup that are supposed to hit 30 home runs and bring guys in, those 2-3 run shots that put the game away, are the two guys we're discussing in this video. And that's why the discussion needs to be had, is because when guys are on, it doesn't feel like they can clean the bases. I feel happy if they just get one guy in. And that's not a feeling I want. That's not a feeling I want with the guys that are getting paid as much as they do. They're two of the highest paid players right now. They on our team, especially. Manny's the highest paid third baseman in baseball, I believe. So this type of production, it's not going to suffice for the Padres right now. It's not going to satisfy what we need from them. And I'm either delusional or I'm smart when I say both of these guys are going to be fine. I think they will both end up putting up great numbers by the end of the season. I firmly believe that. However, if they don't, a serious discussion needs to be had for, are these contracts even worth it? Because at the time you looked at Fernando and you were saying 14 for 314 or whatever it was, that's a steal. And then you look at Manny's and you're going, oh yeah, like 11 for however much it was, especially considering he's deferring a decent amount of the money. Yeah, that's worth it. But even then, now you're looking at it and you're saying, well, almost all of the lineup is producing outside of your superstars. So look, for almost every team, if the superstars don't perform, your team doesn't perform. I'm happy the Padres are where they are right now, considering these two are not performing up to standard. I'm happy with what I'm seeing from everyone, and I'm even sometimes happy with what I'm seeing from Fernando. He's hitting the ball really well. I just want to see the ball in the stands a little more. That's all I want. It's not much to ask for, I feel like. I mean, maybe it is. but um, but considering the names, I do want to see the ball into the third row more, into the fourth row more. Um, it's going to be very important for these two to bounce back. It needs to start in June. Really, it does. You got a stretch where you have an easy schedule. You're facing teams like the Mets, the A's. I don't think a lot of people love the Diamondbacks. I'm going to be honest. I don't think the Diamondbacks are that good. Up next, you play the Royals. That's a good team. I forgot who you play after that, but if this team is not 5 games over 500 after June 16th, I will be disappointed because it is that easy of a stretch. And if the Padres are going to get there over the next, what is that, 15, 16 games, it's going to be on the shoulders of Manny Machado and Fernando Tatis Jr. They need to bounce back now. And not only because of that, but Petco Park is a lot more electric when those two are on.
Yeah, dude. My final thing I was gonna ask is say, all right, so what's your verdict? Are they gonna bounce back? And I think both of us will say like, yeah, I think they are. Which I'm a little bit more afraid for Manny. I'll say I'm
too.
less afraid for Tatis.
Yep.
I'm a little bit more afraid for Manny. But I say yes, like not 100% feeling like, oh, dude, don't worry about it. Like I forgot what it was. It was a while back. Like for instance, like last year we kind of had this discussion like early on about Juan Soto. It's like, is Juan Soto gonna be okay? Because everyone's freaking out. It's like, yeah, guys, he's gonna be fine. He's gonna be totally fine, right? Like we had this before. We had it with I think Tatis a couple. I think it was 2021 or I think it was 21 where it was like he had a little slump. Yeah, he had a slump. It's like, guys, like don't worry, it's not a big deal. Like don't even trip about it. Who was it? There was a pitcher I think that we had. Was it Darvish? I forget. No, it was Snell. It's Snell every year. Every year we had it with Snell.
Yeah, every single year.
The same thing, like, guys, don't worry. He's gonna be totally fine. Don't trip about it. I'm not like that confident now, but it's like, yeah, I think they are going to bounce back. I think it's gonna be okay. But I think everyone feels like, oh, God, this is getting a little scary. And the problem is,
rightfully so. Rightfully so.
The problem is like, yeah, we can say like, yeah, we think they're gonna bounce back. But if they don't bounce back, the ramifications are so horrible. Like that's the problem. It's like it's such a disaster if they don't bounce back. And the pressure on them is so immense now. So that's the thing. And I think that's what we all feel. So yeah, I mean that's really what it comes down to. It's like, yeah, we think they're gonna bounce back, but they better bounce back. That's what it is. It's like, yeah, they have to bounce back. It's not like, oh yeah, maybe you're like this or that. No, they have to bounce back.
Yeah,
else it's
100%.
gonna be rough if they don't.
Yeah.
If they become shells of themselves, it's gonna be really, really bad. It's gonna be an absolute disaster. And I think they're going to. And I think they're going to bounce back. I'm hoping that we're seeing some of those signs. But it is a conversation we gotta have. So yeah. There's a long one, Isaac. Over 30 minutes for a segment.
It's an important topic. It's two of the biggest contracts on our team. You know, it has to be had. I mean, they're the two superstars. They're the two people that when I go to the ballpark, I want to see the most. If I'm being completely honest, those are the two I want to see the most. I used to, when Manny first came and Fernando first came, I used to record every one of their at-bats because I just wanted to have a Manny or Fernando home run on my phone. It's not at that point anymore. I don't do that anymore, but that just shows you guys that I go for them, and I'm sure a lot of you guys do too. And it's important to the fans that the two superstars do not turn into what we're seeing right now, because it's, again, for us fans, it's more fun when you see those guys having fun and doing their handshake whenever they come back, you know, from rounding the bases.
Yeah, no, that's 100% it. So yeah, all right, guys, thanks for all y'all for listening. We'll go live probably later on Sunday night. But yeah, that's gonna do it for today. I got this Royal series coming up. This is a big one. Obviously you win the Marlins series, which is good. Like it's good, but would have liked to see a sweep. But I'm not gonna complain. It's about consistently winning series, and they won this series. So yeah, like they won that series. Let's keep rolling it. Isaac said, I think the date's June 16th. I think you're right about that. I'm pulling it up right now just to double check because there is like a certain date that we talked about. It is June 16th after they play the Mets on the road and then they play the Phillies. They got to be 5 games over 500 by that date, June 16th. Yep. And if they're not, when we talk about it, it's going to be like, guys, they're not 5 games over 500. It is concerning. And that's even the
Yep.
case if they're in the wild card spot, even if they're
Yep.
still sitting in that third wild card spot. But yeah, I think that's going to do it for us. Thank you all for listening. Long segment today, but hopefully you stayed to the end. Got to hear, all the takes on Tatis, Manny Machado. And I think it's, like you said, Isaac, it's definitely a really important topic to discuss. So fun talking about. The other stuff on the Padres, it's been really good. I mean, obviously not everything's perfect, not everything's great, but for the most part, like you brought this up, we said this numerous times, but the fact they are sitting 1 game above 500, and we've got the production that we've seen out of Tatis, Machado, and Bogarts speaks volumes to all these complimentary guys, all the role players, and then the pitching, of course.
Mhm.
It really shows how good they've been and that they've been able to carry the load, which sometimes you need a little adversity early on in a season, especially if you're going to have a good season. So hopefully that's what this is. But yeah. All right, guys. Thanks for listening. Talk to y'all soon. Make sure to hit the like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Talk to you on Sunday. See ya.